This is the super interesting story of Dr. George Gaye, who is known as the Milwaukee Miracle Worker. That's right, Milwaukee is not just the home of beer and baseball, it's also the home of one of the most unrecognized and interesting spiritual masters of our time. Dr. George Gaye was a direct disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda, a world-renowned teacher and author of the book Autobiography of a Yogi. One of the most interesting things about George is that he wasn't much for outward appearances. He wore grubby, mismatching clothes, and he'd even wear his socks inside out. And he humorously called himself a metaphysical garbage man. He would assist people in cleaning and clearing out the debris and carnage in their heart, mind, and soul. George was born in Chicago in the early 1900s and was an orphan. He didn't know his father, and his mother died soon after his birth. And as a young boy, he had to work his way through grade school. In the 1920s, he built a ramshackle house out of used, mismatching, salvaged materials. Apparently nothing was square or level, the roofs, walls, interiors, and floors. During the Depression, he took in as many as 19 families to stay there and live with him. His house was condemned by the city of Milwaukee in 1934, and for 33 years they tried to evict him without success. Some say this in itself was a miracle. And George was known to exhibit miraculous powers. People would travel from far away to see him for miraculous healing sessions. Some witnesses claim he was even able to perform other miracles, like levitation. Dr. George's style was indirect, and people often didn't understand him right away. For example, he would use symbols. Apparently his house was full of clocks, not because he was concerned with the time, but to symbolize that the clock is ticking, and we need to make the most of the time that we have. Sometimes he would get people to move and transport stuff around for no apparent reason, then get them to move it again in a redundant manner that might have frustrated a lot of people. Nobody understood why, but it's believed he might have been doing this to get people to learn to control their frustrated thoughts. And apparently he would test the faith of his students by driving them in his truck, his eyes completely shut. Guided by Yogananda, Dr. George established a church and meditation group in Milwaukee and also founded an 80-acre retreat in northern Wisconsin. The church had a dirt floor, sawed logs for pews, cobwebs in the windows, rusty paint cans, and according to one source, there was even an old used toilet at the end of his altar. His teachings were different. Instead of pounding the pulpit and using guilt or shame on people, he would encourage them instead. He would ask people to realize who they are. He would affirm, "You are not sinners. You are learners and evolvers." George lowers the pressure by showing us that you don't need to have everything right on the outside to get it right on the inside. His unrefined outward conditions exemplify his non-attachment to worldly comforts. He spent so much of his time relating to the spiritual reality that he sometimes had trouble putting together proper sentences. But it didn't matter. What George lacked on the outside, he made up for with inner beauty. He was a vessel of light and love. People say that whenever you came into his presence, you automatically felt a whole lot better, and he didn't need words. He'd look at you with his beaming eyes, send you love, and see the best in you, and you'd feel it on the inside, no words exchanged. Sometimes we don't need words. Sometimes we just have to find the right feeling in our heart and project that outwards to people. Dr. George proved himself to be a master yogi by communicating beyond our usual means of speech and language. Sometimes George would say something confusing on the outside that would totally confound reason, but on the inside you'd feel the message in a very direct and clear way. He was projecting his direct inner guidance into your being. He was doing this to train you to go inside and feel his guidance from within. Because if you can learn to do this, your teacher can be your nearest companion, and you'll feel their inward encouragement when you do right, and their corrective guidance when you do wrong. With attunement to their consciousness, they can help you and inspire you without being limited by space and time. And therefore, they can better assist you in realizing your highest reality. Master George passed away May 25th, 1978. His body died of 12 fatal diseases, including jaundice, and apparently he didn't even have a stomach. A lady named Debbie was beside him while he was on his deathbed. Before he transitioned, he suddenly sat bolt upright in bed and said, "Debbie, Christ is light." Then he lay down and passed away. The legacy of Dr. George is the love and wisdom left inside those who knew him, the love and wisdom that come to those who choose to connect with his inner guidance, which is open to us all. And his legacy is also continued through the Self-Realization Church and Meditation Center in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's still open today. To conclude, here's some little wisdom takeaways for you from Dr. George. 1. Be kind to animals. 2. Try to make others happy. Go out of your way to be kind and good to folks who are different. See yourself in them and see the divinity in them. And 3, you may lose faith on the path. You may lose faith on everything. Never lose faith on yourself. Your purpose on earth is to develop the divinity within you. You too are on your way to become a Christ. The only difference between you and Jesus or Krishna is time. Expand your consciousness now and identify with all creation. Experience yourself as every atom of creation. That is who you really are. You are now deluded into thinking your name is Bob or Paul or Sandy, and you're a little person watching this video. You are eternal spirit. God is big. You are big. You are infinite within.